Thank you, God bless you, and God bless Texas.
When Ted Cruz first won the Senate 12 years ago, it was the Tea Party that fueled his victory.
Tonight is a tremendous testament to Republican women, to Tea Party leaders.
Salute the Tea Party of Texas.
So many Republicans have counted on their political warriors. And one of the queens of the Texas Tea Party women's movement was a woman named Elvie Kingston, photographed here with all the top conservative politicians in the state. Her last public post on Facebook was June of 2019. Tells you a lot about her political passion. "Keep America great," she wrote. This is a happy-looking Elvie 2 years later, 2021, posing in sombreros with her niece, Michelle Hartman. It was right before she got sick with dementia.
It was during those pictures that you saw with the sombreros. That was pretty much the last time I saw her face to face.
It has been almost 2 years since Michelle has been allowed to even be in the same room with her aunt. Do you know where she is today?
I do not.
Where is Elvie Kingston, and what has happened to all her money? Is she here, inside this 3-acre gated house in Marble Falls? Her every move and her money, both controlled by the same couple with a history of financial problems?
It's infuriating. And what's most infuriating is I feel that the court failed her.
Checks for tens of thousands of dollars in mineral royalties arrive here every month in the mail. But her family? They have no idea how the money's being spent. It's a guardianship investigation with explosive political consequences. Because you know who lives here? A justice on the state's highest court, the Texas Supreme Court.
I am committing to restoring the values that made this country great. Otherwise, we won't ever survive.
John Devine is running for re-election in the March primary, and he's been avoiding us. He's also been avoiding his job to hear oral arguments, missing 28 out of 50 cases this term. Justice Devine says he's been busy campaigning, but our questions, they're not about a judicial campaign. They're about the Devine family and their control over Elvie Kingston.
So they completely control her body and her money. They're in control of the entire estate, the trust, and my aunt.
Nubia Devine has now been appointed the guardian of Elvie. And Justice Devine, he's the current trustee of Elvie's family trust. Michelle is supposed to be one of the beneficiaries of that trust. You don't trust them, do you?
I found a lot of information, financial history on him.
We've tracked this history of financial issues. There are 4 court judgments in Montgomery, Dallas, and Williamson counties for nearly $70,000 in unpaid credit card bills.
And I want to share with you a little bit about my history.
Before his run for Supreme Court, Devine's house was foreclosed on. His latest financial disclosure shows hundreds of thousands of dollars in loans on a judge's salary. A lawyer appointed as guardian ad litem for Elvie protested, quoting, "Nubia Devine is not suitable to serve as the proposed ward's guardian. Judge Michael Newman was on the bench. He appointed Nubia anyway." Devine's lawyers had provided thousands of dollars in campaign contributions to the judge. Niece Michelle, one of the beneficiaries of Elvie's estate, wasn't even served with notice of the court hearing. You believe the Devines took advantage of her, don't you?
I do. I keep saying I have a lot of whys. Why? Why did this happen to her?
Michelle had Elvie's power of attorney in 2021 when she got sick, but she lived in Kansas. The family had tried to find a place to handle Elvie's medical condition and her increasing behavioral problems.
When everything happened, when she was in the hospital, when she was in the assisted living, I stayed in contact with everyone.
And text messages we've seen confirm that. But something strange happened in January of 2022. What smacks of an orchestrated effort to remove Elvie from the Spring Branch Transitional Hospital without her family's knowledge or permission. As you can see, the next day, Michelle's power of attorney was revoked with the help of Houston attorney Susan Norman.
I truly think you're being gaslighted. You're being fed false information that sounds real.
My client, Nubia Devine, declines to be interviewed in any manner and has instructed me not to discuss the case with you.
Methodist psychologist Richard Barrett declared LV mentally incapacitated. But here's the thing. LV was apparently capable days earlier of reading and signing all these legal documents. The condition of her signature should have raised alarm bells about her knowledge of what she was signing.
How could she be of sound mind to be able to sign legal documents that day?
We think it's a good question. Listen to this. Dr. Barrett said LV was mentally incapacitated, but with one glaring exception. She was capable of saying who she does and does not want in control of her finances. LV had reportedly become convinced, according to this email, that some in her family were really out to kill her.
So she was capacitated enough to revoke my power of attorney, and she was capacitated enough to say, I don't trust my family and don't want nothing to do with them.
But not for anything else.
Not for anything else, because now she needs a guardian.
But this consequential medical evaluation, it occurred over a television, not even in person. We think in-person examinations should be required before someone loses their rights.
I have never tried to kill her. I've done nothing but love her. And it was in Seguin where she was actually doing well. She wasn't having any behavioral outbreaks.
In September of 2022, a judge declared Nubia Devine would be the permanent guardian of LV, even though a court investigator sent to check on her condition could never get the Devine family to give them access, even a visit over Zoom. You believe because he's a justice on the Texas Supreme Court, he's getting favorable treatment.
That's how it appeared. Because again, it was seamless. Everything was seamless.
And the family complains the wife of Justice Devine has now failed to file the required annual report on LV's welfare and her whereabouts.
I had some anxiety. I couldn't sleep. I kept asking God why. My aunt is a child of God.
Ms. Devine isn't bound by the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct, but her husband is. So how is this Supreme Court justice being allowed to control the Kingston's money? Look at judicial ethics. A judge shall not serve as executor, administrator, or trustee unless the person is a member of the judge's family, and only then if it won't interfere with his duties. While fighting to gain legal control of LV Kingston and her money in 2022, Devine missed another 20 oral arguments.
I don't think he should be in charge of any of what my aunt has. I kept asking the court, is Judge Newman gonna report this to the Texas Judicial Code of Conduct? And I was told no.
And a lawyer for Justice Devine and the trust said he wouldn't talk to us either. So we made a surprise visit to Austin, where Justice Devine was holding a campaign fundraiser sponsored by some of the state's biggest law firms.
I'm not going to speak to you about that case. I can't do it.
But the justice did answer a few questions before security showed up. And we wanted to know first, well, where is LV Kingston today? Is she staying with your house?
Yeah, she is.
She is? How's she doing?
She's doing great.
Isn't that a violation of the ethics rule?
No, because I'm family.
LV had no children, and it's true that she often called John Devine her son. But he isn't a blood or real family relative. Well, she's not a member of your family.
She's held me out to be her son for 30 years, man.
When she dies, LV's will awards half her money to church and the other half to Michelle and her brother. That is what's left after the Devines handle her money now. And we know from this email that at least 2 lawyers appointed by a judge to represent LV and her multi-million-dollar estate wanted Justice Devine to resign as trustee so an independent watchdog could handle LV's money, but he clearly hasn't. You think what the judge did was unethical?
Yes.
Michelle's filed her own complaint with the Judicial Conduct Commission way back in August of 2022. There's a hearing scheduled in April to see if Justice Devine will face sanctions, but it's after voters cast their ballot in the upcoming March primary. It's why we're telling this story before you vote.
And it just looks so terribly wrong.
Devine's opponent in the Republican primary is Fort Worth Appeals Court Justice Brian Walker. Michelle reached out to him with her story, and he's now reacting to our investigation. and Devine's refusal to give up control of LV's huge financial trust.
Just vile, in my opinion. It reeks of just so many wrongs.
This has become the latest in a series of ethical lapses in Justice Devine's career. He was rebuked by the Judicial Conduct Commission before when he used his court chambers as a district judge for a political event. And just a few days ago, the Texas Tribune questioned why Devine didn't recuse himself in a sex abuse case involving a law firm he worked with for years.
He's had a long history of violating judicial ethics rules, violating the Texas Code of Judicial Conduct. He's been sanctioned by the Commission on Judicial Conduct for ethics violations. And now we have him just doing it once more.
Why can't her family see her?
Because she doesn't want to see him. They tried to kill her.
His hand violently shaking, Devine then showed us a picture of LV when she was in a nursing home, as proof her family was doing it to try and kill her.
Wayne, that's something that millions of people unfortunately have to do every day. And if John Devine is saying that that's trying to kill somebody, then there's a lot of people in this country that are good people that apparently have blood on their hands.
You would like to see a full accounting of what's happened to the money?
Absolutely.
The finances are one thing, but the fact that a poor family doesn't know where their aunt is, the fact that they've been asking for 2 years and a Supreme Court judge and his wife refuses to tell the family anything, it's disgusting. And it's absolutely unacceptable.
Lawyers for Justice Devine say telling us anything about the trust and the money would be against the law. That's fine. But the Supreme Court justice has refused to even let the family see the numbers unless they spend more money on lawyers to try and fight him. But we know some of what's happened to LV's money from court records. In Nubia Devine's application back in March of 2022 to be the temporary guardian, it appeared the estate assets were valued at $2 million, the trust at $1.4 million. By November of 2023, this report says the total value of the estate has dropped significantly, now just $378,000.
What are you doing with her finances, and what are you doing with the monies in the trust? That's the perfect situation for somebody who's trying to do no good.
We know LV's guns, furniture, and jewelry was sold for at least $90,000. Court records show 14 pieces of LV's jewelry and 6 fur coats were awarded to Nubia Devine.
I do not need her money.
But for now, Michelle has moved back to Texas and has a simple request for Justice Devine and his wife. Let her visit with her aunt, even though she knows her once happy relationship may be ruined forever.
Oh my gosh, I'd want to tell her how much we love her and miss her. If she knew what was happening, if she knew today, if she was aware of it, she would ask why she was in the position that she's in.
So the question I have is this: where is Mrs. Kingston? What is her welfare? What is her well-being? And what are the Devines doing with her millions?